السلام عليكم رئيس. بسم الله. سنبدأ جلسة الصباح بإذن الله برئاسة سعادة الدكتور إسحاق الرقيشي وكيل وزارة الزراعة، مع التنبيه أوراق العمل التي ألقيت بالأمس موجودة في الخارج، والتي ستلقى اليوم ستكون متوفرة بعد إلقائها بإذن الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أول شيء احنا سعيدين بالتواجد معكم اليوم في هذه الجلسة الطيبة، اليوم الثاني للندوة، ندوة الندوة الدولية للملكية الفكرية والتنمية المستدامة. تضم أنا سعيد أيضا بوجود هذه النخبة الجيدة بالتعاون مع الوايبو والبي سي. بالنسبة لنا احنا نعتقد أنه هذا الوقت الملائم للنظر في حقوق الملكية الفكرية في جميع المجالات اللي تختص خاصة بالثقافة والعلوم والتكنولوجيا والزراعة والموارد الرعوية والموارد الطبيعية. طبعا اليوم جلستنا جلسة دسمة، عندنا ثلاث مواضيع بنتكلم فيها. في الجلسة الأولى هي توثيق المعارف التقليدية، دكتور جوبيت عندنا قواعد بيانات الموارد الوراثية وحماية الملكية الفكرية الدكتورة نادية السعدي، وتوثيق المعارف التقليدية وحمايتها حماية إيجابية مانويل روز. نظام الجلسة طبعا معروف بأنه بيكون في مناقشات بالنسبة برزنتيشن للمجموعة، وبعدين يكون مناقشة في الأخير بس للعلم، بحيث انه يكون ما في نوع من المقاطعه بالنسبه للمحاضرين، عشان ناخذ وقت المحاضر نفس الوقت اللي محدد له بالنسبه لي، وعشان ايضا سرعه الليل. طبعا اول شيء نبدا بالدكتور جوبيتا. هي is working as a senior advisor at director of TKDL. He has published more than 120 research papers related to information technology, intellectual property, right, and traditional knowledge. I think he's sharing his experience with us now, and we hope we benefit from his presentation. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, I am grateful to WIPO and PESI for giving this opportunity and the great hospitality. Yesterday was a very memorable evening. And in fact, I would remember this for very long. Now let me begin the presentation. You know what we are trying to do here in documentation. Normally documentation is done either for preservation or for transmission from current generation to the next generation. There are not many examples globally where documentation has been done as a technical tool against biopiracy or preventing misappropriation. And the example which we would be sharing is for codified knowledge, means which has already been documented in local language. But if same example is also applicable to oral, and if it is done for oral, then it can serve all the three purposes, that is preservation, transmission, and a technical tool against biopiracy. Now, traditional knowledge, as we all know, in particular the documentation project creates a big challenge. The language in which traditional knowledge is, normally it is in the head of the people, and it is local, which is not understood by many people. Second problem is when you generate this knowledge over a large period, as case of India, the knowledge is 2500 BC, is highly unstructured in nature. Anything unstructured in nature is very difficult to document. And then the problem with this misappropriation of traditional knowledge is that in the present form, it is not accessible to any search engine on internet. So if people cannot retrieve it, so they cannot utilize it as a prior art. So there are various issues which all we know before anybody takes a documentation project. All these issues are required to be addressed. The WIPO toolkit did address in part 1, and I think it will address more comprehensively in the part 2. And unless we address these issues, the documentation project may do more harm than the good. So the intellectual property aspects, the right of holders, all these issues must be very well understood before we take up such projects. Now coming to India's case or sharing of our experience, see, we initiated this project as early as 2000. Now it's almost 11 years. And our concern in those days was primarily the turmeric case on wound healing property for which patent was granted in 1995. And there was another case, that neem for antifungal property, for which patent was granted at European Patent Office. In fact, turmeric case was the one which brought the issue of traditional knowledge on the forefront. India did fight both the cases, and we were able to succeed. But you know, the neem case, it did take from 95 to 2005, 10 years. And it did almost cost $1 million. So that time we thought that you cannot grant a patent if there is a already pre-existing knowledge. In both the cases we were able to prove it. But the problem was that knowledge was buried in the books, and it is not accessible to the international system. It was not digital. So that's the reason we started this project. We wanted to break the language barrier on this knowledge and the format barrier. We have decided to set up this library in 2000 in 5 international languages: French, German, Japanese, English, and Spanish. You know, in India's traditional knowledge, in particular traditional medicinal knowledge, is available in languages such as Arabic, Persian, Urdu, Sanskrit, Tamil, etc. So our challenge was how do we make it understandable to a wider audience. These are the 3 cases I have already mentioned. These were the cause. And you know, when we studied the problem time to time from March 2000, then we studied in December 2005 and December 2008, etc. Several of the studies which we did, we realized the problem is really huge. And at any given time, 2000 cases like turmeric and neem are being attempted by multinationals every year concerning India's traditional knowledge. If neem took 1 million, if you want to fight these 2000 cases which are being filed every year, you need to spend 10 years, and at per 2000 prices, a $2 billion, I don't think any nation can afford this. Even, I mean, country like India cannot. Then, you know, we studied the problem. We realized there is an international patent classification system. I will not go into the detail. That is the core of patent system. And you know, patents are granted if there is a novelty, something new, if something non-obvious, and there is a use. The novelty determination by an examiner is done by utilizing this classification system, which has 69,000 symbols. And all the traditional medicinal knowledge which is plant-based, this system did not recognize. It has only 1 symbol. For physics or chemical technology, it may have few thousand symbols, but for all the traditional medicinal knowledge of the world, It had only one symbol in 2000, that is A61K3578. You know, we decided to structure our knowledge and we created a system known as traditional knowledge resource classification. For India's traditional medicinal knowledge alone, there are 25,000 such symbols in this system. If we take handicrafts, if we take textile design, if we take farmers' knowledge, if we take traditional architecture, I'm sure this India's traditional knowledge classification itself will exceed the international patent classification system. And if we take the entire world developing countries' traditional knowledge, the veracity of that knowledge will be many times more than so-called the modern knowledge. No, but the problem with traditional knowledge is national action is necessary but not sufficient. Because the piracy of turmeric patent did not happen in India. It happened in United States. NEEM happened in European Patent Office. So unless they recognize doing at your end doesn't mean much. So we put this case in the committee of experts in 2001. A 5-member task force at the Committee of Expert IPC Union Geneva was constituted of US, European Patent Office, Japan, China and India. In 2002, the task force did agree to our suggestion, and by 2004, the task force has decided to enhance this symbol from 1 to 200, and it has enormous meaning. See, basically the international system was recognizing in 2004 that traditional knowledge, in particular traditional medicinal, need to be recognized. See, this is how our knowledge exists. In one case in Sanskrit. Now, we were required to convert this knowledge into system like this, which can be understood by international system. I'll speak that Guluchi Quartz is a therapeutic compound formulation consisting of useful part of following ingredient. Tinospora cordifolia is a Latin name which is understood everywhere. Guluchi is a Sanskrit name which only Sanskrit scholar can understand. Then we converted what component this medicine takes in that shloka, which part of the plant, how it is prepared. It is useful in the treatment of smallpox, and Masurika is the Sanskrit name. Then we gave the references. You know, this piece of information now is like a first page of patent application, very modern. Then we converted into Japanese, Spanish, French, German. Today this library consisting of 34 million pages. In fact, the largest database on the traditional knowledge in the world. And probably one of the largest even in modern science. It has the information on 0.2 million, more than 0.2 million medicinal formulation, like turmeric and neem. So this library is capable of protecting these many medicinal formulation. But it does not mean it is capable of protecting everything of India's traditional knowledge, not at all. See, it can only protect what it contains. See, other than traditional medicinal knowledge which is there in this from the books, there are lots of knowledge which is oral, which is not part of the library. It doesn't protect handicrafts. It doesn't protect traditional architecture. It doesn't protect farmers' knowledge. Probably we need to extend into those areas. So whatever we do, unless there is an international system, there are limitations. See, several of the countries have visited us in past want to utilize this as a tool, develop themselves. The World Intellectual Property Director General Mr. Francis Gurry wrote to us that they want to internationalize it. In fact, WIPO and CSIR had a conference where 33 countries participated, and from India we shared our experience. And that's it. See, it has been very globally covered and globally recognized. I mean, enormous newspaper coverage is there. I am just giving some examples. A very prestigious journal has covered. Now, you know, ultimately doing this library was not enough. We have a challenge. We wanted to keep this information secure, and still we wanted a patent office to utilize it. We wanted to keep it secure so that multinationals do not misuse it. But without giving access to patent office, what use is this library? So we came out with a very unique experiment, an idea, where we created a access agreement which is unique and I think first of its kind in the world, whereby we said that international patent examiner will utilize the content of this library but will not share the information with anybody unless he is rejecting a patent, where he will cite why he is rejecting. It's a very complex and difficult condition. And from our part, we said, okay, we'll give you 24/7 access, and then we will not charge anything for this. And before we agreed to give to the international patent system, you know, prior informed consent in such database is very necessary. Unless you have a prior informed consent, such databases should not be attempted even. So when we initiated this project in TKDL, it's a publicly available knowledge. So nation is the owner of this knowledge. So what did we do? We went to our highest body of decision making, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, chaired by our Prime Minister. He gave us the approval, okay, you can go ahead and create this library. Then we wanted to give the access to this library to the international patent system. Again, we went to the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, chaired by our Honorable Prime Minister. That committee approved our access mechanism, that committee approved our agreement, and under that agreement we share. So, whether you have a publicly available knowledge or a knowledge of a community, the principle of prior informed consent on TK cannot be deviated. There is no question of violation. Even deviation should not happen. You know, now all the developed offices of the world, beginning European Patent Office, German Patent Office, United States Patent and Trademark Office. In fact, this agreement we signed when our Honorable Prime Minister made a state visit to United States. On the sideline of the visit, this agreement was signed. UK, Canada, Australia, Japan, Korea and New Zealand also will happen. So what I am trying to say, this has found not only acceptance by Government of India and the nation, it has also found acceptance by the most developed countries of the world where the biopiracy happens. Biopiracy of Indian knowledge does not happen in India. There is no reason it can happen there. In fact, I must also share with you, United States sent its examiners for training to us in India. I don't think anywhere before United States scientist and examiner would come to India for training. Now our team is expected to go and train larger number of people. Similar requests we are receiving from other offices. Now what is this TKDL? See, TKDL is not a legal tool. To be honest, it's not even an administrative measure, because you can take administrative measure in India, na? You cannot take an administrative measure from India to US. So it is a technical tool which utilizes the available international patent laws of different countries. And study that and find out that how do we utilize that system, what are its strengths, what are its weaknesses, and stop the biopiracy. That's what it does. So one of the law of the international patent system is of novelty on patent. If there is a prior art in any language anywhere in the world, no matter which language, no matter hard copy or digital, if you can establish that knowledge exists, nobody can grant the patent. That's the law. So the TKDL utilizes only that simple law, nothing else. Now, another point is, if you want to watch and stop, take action against pirates' misappropriation of your knowledge, you must know who is trying to misappropriate global level. Yesterday you did hear Mr. Gari, where he said that 160,000 applications are filed every year under PCT alone. And there are 8 million applications, already 8 million patents. So the number of applications filed is 1 million and odd every year. So we have set up a global biopiracy watch system, whereby anybody filing in any application in the offices where we have an agreement, we come to know. And once we come to know that, we examine that. And if we find there is evidence in TKDL, then we submitted that evidence to that patent office. So that's how the global biopiracy watch system works. I'm not going to in the technical details of it. And then we examine this on various IPC symbols of our interest. I just can show you. See, these are the kind of symbols which are there in IPC now on medicinal plants. There are many more we examine. Now, you know, we have already taken in about a 1 year period action on 567 cases of biopiracy of multinational companies. And these are that other information was the office-wise, which office this we found. But if we look at the applicant country-wise, most of the time the MNCs of these countries, multinational corporations of these countries, are the one against whom we have submitted the evidences. In the bottom also you can see Denmark, New Zealand, Luxembourg, etc. Already, you see, in March we had a conference. This brief brochure I have put some copies outside. So those of you who are interested in collect. In March when we had a conference, we had already achieved the outcome in 37 cases in March, where either cancellation has happened or a withdrawal has happened, or applicants have amended their claim. Between March and today, in June, 11 more cases outcome has come. Now it has been accelerated. I'm sure by the end of this year, we would have filed another 500 cases and the balance 500 cases outcome would come. You know, what does it mean? If 500 cases we realize by the end of this year, today, if a multinational corporation decide to fight, the legal cost and travel cost could be as well as $2 million per case. And if they don't decide to fight, it could be, even then it would be at least $200,000 to $300,000. And whereas these 500 cases, after developing TKDL, has not given any cost to us, no? So even if I take most conservative of 1 million, we would have been spending $500 million, which we can't afford, and maybe next 10 years to fight these cases. The another impact which has happened is the tendency of multinational to file applications on India's traditional medicinal knowledge is now reduced a lot. They are not able to file because they are worried, why waste money? Because there will be evidence which will be filed. Now let me show you some examples. What does it mean? See, this is the Neem case which I mentioned. You know, it took 10 years to file. See, it was filed on 1990 by a US based organization. It was granted in 94 after 4 years. In 94 we opposed it, but by the time 2005 only it got cancelled. And this misappropriation does not happen only for India. This is a Mexico case. Enola Bean case, is a very interesting case. It was granted on 99, opposed in 2000. Then after 2-3 years, patent office rejected it. Then the applicant went into appeal. Appeal was also rejected by USPTO. Then he went to federal court. And finally in 2008, it was rejected, and Mexican farmer till that time could not export this yellow bean to US. Let's look at this Monsanto case. It took 13 years at European Patent Office to fight. Now let's look what TKDL does. See, it was filed on anti-vitiligo cream by a Spanish firm in 2006. 2009 March, EPO said, okay, we'll grant you the patent. On 1st July, the evidence was submitted. On 27 July, EPO cancelled the earlier intention to grant. No cost, no legal expenses. You know, this was very widely covered in Indian media. Like that, there are several cases. Some took 11 weeks on a Danish biopiracy, on ginger. So, all these cases are on our website. These are the plants which we have been able to protect. These are the large multinationals against whom it has been won. And you know, the difference between neem fight and turmeric fight was, or the Monsanto fight, when you fight after grant, the applicant has a right. And that right, once you even win first time, then he can go in appeal. Even if you win appeal after a few years, he can go to courts. Because after the grant, right has been created. In this approach, what we do? See, we empowered the examiner of a patent office on the prior art, that this knowledge already exists. So either the examiner cancels it. So if a patent has been cancelled, no right has been created. Or applicant themselves decide no use in wasting money, they withdraw. So the basic right itself does not get created, so the question of appeal doesn't come. Now, you know, let's understand, many times one may feel that, oh, this